When I thought about to write this book, actually is a sort of experience of my life about Kabbalah, because usually I use Kabbalah in a practical way and to interact with people, especially in the healing system, because Kabbalah is a huge subject. And usually this kind of Jewish mysticism is related to the study of the ancient texts like Torah or other books of the Jewish mysticism like Sefer Yetzirah or Sefer Zohar. But my approach just from the beginning was to how to use this system to interact with people and to how to use to improve the healing system of the people. First about myself, of course, but actually, in my opinion, Kabbalah is very interesting. Use Kabbalah in this sense, and in this book, there are different sections, because the first section is about the tree of life. The tree of life in Kabbalah is the most important symbol, the ancient one, that we can use in a lot of different ways, because a lot of authors in the world used the Kabbalah system and the tree of life in different ways. And the second part is about the human body and the Hebrew letters. The Hebrew letters is not only the letters you use to write in Hebrew language, but it's a real archetype. The archetype is used in a different way in Kabbalah, and in this system is used to interact with the human body, because every single part of the human body and the our system is connected with the archetypes. So when you use the letter, and in the book I can show you there are some letters that I paint with a painter, a famous Italian painter. You can use this letter to interact with your body system, but not only with the body. The interaction is in four levels. The first level is the body, because we live in this, in this world, thanks to our body. The second level is our mind, because our psychological situation, our psychological attitude are very important in the relation with the body. I think about our, fears that we have in life, our limits or our talent, depends on the way. The third level is about the soul, because every one of us has his own soul, his own soul system. And in Kabbalah it's very important this, because in our soul we have all information about our system. And the fourth level, the most important, perhaps most important level, is the spiritual level. The connection that we have every day with our system until the highest level of connection. So when we work with Hebrew letters, we can work on the fourth level at the same time. It's a sort of re-harmonization of the system and connection between this fourth level. In this book I try to explain which is my experience about this connection, and how to rebalance and recreate a new system to go on in life, especially when in our life there was a trauma or, as I said, fears or any limits that we can feel in our life. At the end of this book, I try to, there are some figures I can show you, there are some scheme that you can use around your body. We can use the letter around our body, because the interaction between archetypes and the system is extremely direct. There's no limits in this sense, because when you approach to a healing system, you can put your mind, your way of thinking, you can put your limits. When you interact with the archetypes tells to everyone without any limits, because all of us became from that archetypes. Especially in the Western tradition, the letters, the Hebrew letters, are connected with our system. There is a huge story about this, about, I thought about, I don't know, I think about the mysticism, I think about tarot, I think about astrology. They are all archetypes that we connect. And Kabbalah, especially the Tree of Life, it's a sort of system that in which you can put all different archetypes. And all together they can mix, and tells us, first of all, tells us a story about ourselves and how to move for the next step. So actually in this book there is my story, my experience with this system, and I tried to, when I wrote this book, it was released in 2016-17, I thought about how to communicate this and how to improve without, you know, by ourselves, without any guide near us, because actually we can do our part with, you know, with ourselves. What we need is for sure the connection, and sometimes the connection is lost for many reasons. Life is a weird thing, you know. There are a lot of events in life that you can go to the different way, or different path of yours. So when you use the letter, the first impression is that I reconnect with myself. That's the most important thing. From this book, that's the starting point. In 1 or 2 years, I tried to explore another system, because I discover and I work a lot with the vibrational water. Many of you know, for example, a great researcher in this sense, Masaru Emoto, is Japanese, and I work a lot on that system to understand why the water and the cell of the water can receive information and release information in our system. So I, when just 3 years ago, I thought about how to match the property of the water and the archetypes, Kabbalah archetypes. And I did a lot of experiments with a lot of people, and I discovered that it would be possible to increase more than the letters, only the letters, the system, the healing system. And I created this water extremely connected with the Tree of Life, because are 32 water, and we have the 10 sephiroths of the Tree of Life and the 22 letters. So I create this kind of match between water and Kabbalah system. And I did a lot of experiments before create this system with sick people in the body or in a psychological way, especially in Italy. I work with hospital, because I had a lot of friends of mine are a doctor in hospital, and I try to see what's the reaction of these people to this kind of treatment. And we discovered a lot of nice things and nice results. So I decided to create this system based on 3 elements, different elements. The letter, the archetypes, the color, because the frequency of the color is very important. For this reason, my letters in the book are colored, because when you see a color, we have a message, a direct message to our unconscious. The third element is the sound. The frequency of the sound, especially in the Kabbalah tradition, is very important. When we talk about letters, we talk about sound, because starting from our name, I always think about this stuff. When someone calls me, I recognize myself because I have a name. So I thought, okay, I can create this system matching these 3 elements and see what happens. And I have to say that there are a lot of results in this, in a different way. They work very well in a psychological and soul level. And the body is the result, because the body is a sort of box in which we live, and is the result of our feelings, of our emotion, of our problems on a psychological level or in soul level. And some of them, all of them actually, but some of them are specifically created for the connection with the spiritual level, especially the first 3 or 4. So this system is a sort of new book. I can tell this, it's a sort of new book that we can use for ourselves in really without any particular knowledge, because it's possible to interact with this system really easily without any difficulty. In this book, as I told you, I tells about my knowledge, about my knowledge between me, the relation between me and the Kabbalah, because Kabbalah, it's a tradition actually. In this tradition, the real connection there is, it's between you and the system. But at the same time, it's the tradition this tradition can be matched all together, because when we talk about Kabbalah, we talk about a level in which we are all together. So when I realized the book, I explained this in this book, and when I realized the water, I thought about how to match people all together. Because when we are rebalanced about ourselves, we can create a new communication with the other people, and that's very important. Otherwise, the communication, the relation with the other people could be not authentically, could be not, how can I say, really straight. So in this book, you can find, if you like, a lot of information about how this system works on the body, and the connection is very easy, because in Hebrew language, in Jewish tradition, every single part of the body has a name. For this reason, I told you about the name, because every single name is composed by letter. So if I think about, I don't know, the liver, if you think about the stomach, there is a different letters who compose this name, and so I can have a direct relation. I know I think it can be weird, but I can have a direct direction with my liver, with my stomach, not only in a physical way, but more than this, in a psychological way, in an energetic way. So if I have a problem, I can interact directly and talk with this part of my body or the system of the body. And the connection in the 4th level are automatically, because when I touch, it's a sort of line. When you touch a part of the line, you move the other part. So it's very easy to rebalance in this system, because you can only, you have to focus on which is the problem, and then you find the solution. And hopefully in the problem there is the solution. So in this kind of system you can find easily the solution, because you get exactly the point thanks to the letter, the Hebrew letters. Otherwise, there are, in this book, the letters could be, it's nice because you can cut the letter. Okay, you can use also for meditation. I did a lot of workshops about this, because when I work on the archetypes tells me a story that I didn't know that I know. Every single letter tells about a story. There is a very interesting book called Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, in which the letters tells their story to the gods, and gods interacts with these letters, because actually are sort of intelligence. So when I do a meditation with the letter, I create a connection with these archetypes, and I discover something about myself. And when I do the workshop, we usually do the exercise. We write our impression, our sensation, and it's nice to see that all people, when you work with the same archetypes, tells the same story. But at the same time, the story is filtered by my experience, because every one of us has different experience in his life. So it's nice to see how archetypes can create the connection, but at the same time I always say that we are unique in this sense. So every one of us has his story, his story to tell, and at the same time his life. So it's interesting to see how letters can create this kind of connection. Anyway, in this book you can find a lot of information. It's only about the practical Kabbalah. I don't write in this book about the story of Kabbalah. There are a lot of book sections about this, and I actually my approach is a different approach. But at the same time, it's a sort of step forward to, probably a new way to see how to use Kabbalah, and how Kabbalah can create a real transformation about this in ourselves. Just to talk a few minutes about the water, it's very nice. I can show you the colors of the water of this elixir are tells us directly something. Usually I suggest to choose this elixir about colors, about the archetypes you can find on the bottle, because it tells you a story, and immediately you can have a feeling or not, depends on your situation in this moment. And when we choose and do a text, you can do a text, a kinesiological text or other kind of text, usually people know which kind of letters or which kind of elixir needs in this moment, because we know exactly what we need. But sometimes we are disconnected with our real needs. We are more connected with our mental needs. Sometimes I can think, oh, I need a new car. I don't know, I need a new boyfriend, a new girlfriend, a new love, new house. I want to stay better. But in a deep form, probably the needs are different. So if we work on the deep level, we can really discover our real needs. And this is the way I create this kind of water, because it's very important, I think, in life to discover our real needs. And that's the way to go on and to increase and improve our life in this sense. I'm very synthetic. I have to tell you, very synthetic. What can we find also in the book? There are some images about it's a particular thing I call the dance of the letters. I work on this with a dancer, an important dancer, and we find some figure, you can use, you can do with your body, and because I think the body is a great instrument. We can, communicate a lot of things. We can use for a lot of things. And when you dance the letter, and if you want, in this book there is the figure, the explanation how to use it. It's funny, but I did a lot of workshop on this, and it's incredible how to see the body tells about our problem, about our emotional status in that moment, feelings. And when we dance the letter, this is the expression, actually we create a great connection with the archetype. Because I have to be honest, this dance and the letters too, I received this information in a sort of channeling, okay? We can call it in this way. And when I received this information, I said to me, okay, try, see what happened, So I kept some people, do you want to, do this kind of dance and see what happened? And I have to say that there is a great transformation, because music, dance, sounds, vibration are great instruments to reconnect with the highest level. Because it's not a mental work. It's a interaction between our system without mind. And this is a real different approach, because sometimes when I study Kabbalah for several years, especially when I was young, And I have to say thank you to my teacher, who was a rabbi in Rome. There is a mental approach, because we study the text, we study, that's the instrument. Past to the mental approach, to a physical approach, is a sort of growing, is a sort of, passage. And so the vibration are different, because when you read a letter, when you say something in the Hebrew language, it's different. It's really different when you use this and match this with your body. So it's if you buy the book, you can try to do in the morning this kind of position. A lot of people do Tai Chi, it's not so different, because actually every single tradition has his tradition in how to use the body, and it's a sort of figure dance. So it's also in this tradition there is this, and so this is a sort of growing of this book. This is an explanation of the system, and so how to use it and for what. Actually, in the Tree of Life, in the 32 parts, there are all our systems. So we can really approach to a different situation, problems, or a way of thinking, and to switch, or growing, or rebalance. So this is the reason for which I create this kind of system. We see the Tree of Life in this way. Okay, it's a sort of symbol, flat symbol, 10 sephirots and 22 paths. Actually, the Tree of Life, it's a symbol in 5 dimensions. So it's technically is a toroid. It's a sort of sphere, 3-dimensional one. It's very difficult to represent in the book, but it's not flat. So because it tells about our system. So as my body is 3-dimensional in this system, in this world, at the same time the Tree of Life is as 5 dimensions. The 3 dimensions we know, the time and the space. So in this 5th dimension we can match together all the system. And when we work on the letters that I show you, these letters works on this dimension. So when I do a meditation, or I use the letter for discover, because it's a sort of it's a discover ourselves substantially. I can work on different dimensions. It's very interesting because I open my mind, and I can sometimes you start to think in a different way about yourself, about the other ones. So it's a sort of it's like when you open a box and you discover something inside that you never saw before. So it's a surprise. Let you surprised by the letters, because letters are really intelligent and tells to us in a straight way. Sometimes it's difficult to find this in human, very difficult. But letters are, their goals are, okay, I can interact with you, I'm an intelligence, divine intelligence, and I can help you to discover yourself and to create a relation. A lot of students, after they work with letters, they dream about the letters, they talk with the letter in the dreams. It's very interesting, it's very nice, because it's a sort of rebirth of our unconscious. And the same things happens when people works with tarot, for example, because tarot are connected with the 32 parts, especially with the 22 parts. And when you work with tarot, I work a lot with tarot. I published a book about tarot that was in this bookshop too. And when you work with tarot, you have quite the same, results and connection, because are archetypes. But tarots are more representative. They tell a story. The fool, the magician. There is a story in tarot. The letters are more, essential, but at the same time tells the same story. When we work together with the letters and tarots, there's not so much different. because they tell really the same story. So if you are usually you use tarot or astrology too, because in this system, as you can say, if you like, upstairs, later upstairs, we can do some text. There are the planets, the astrology, because in this system, astrology is strictly connected with the Kabbalah. And our feelings about my position, for example, of the Venus or Mars on Jupiter in my natal chart, could be correct with this kind of frequency. I work a lot about in astrology, and when you use a vibrational water of one planet, you can correct some, some way that sometimes that are not very good in our natal chart. We always have good things and bad things, and you can correct some lines, especially the squares, and you can work on this, try to improve, to change, because all change is possible. Actually, all change is possible. Sometimes we have to find the right way. So that's a way. This is a way. That's my way. Music, frequency. There is a CD. In this CD, there are two different music. One for therapy, because you can do a therapy to yourself about this or other people. And one it's about meditation and the dance of the letters. These two music is made by Marco Meloni, is here, and so when you put the CD, you can do a meditation, you can relax, you can use for a lot of stuff actually. I use for a lot of stuff, also to relax because it's a nice music, and especially connected with the letters when you use the letter for the therapy.
You picked the four bottles in front of us. You talked about the first four are important.
Yeah,
the
most
first important.
Yeah.
Do these represent like Bria, Asaya, Yetzirah, or what are they exactly?
No, the first bottles are connected with the first Sephirot, Keter, Chokhmah, Binah, and Chesed. This for change the Jewish Hebrew language, change the sound, the frequency. These four are important because the first three are strictly connected with the one. So when you ask to reconnect with your spiritual level, the one is the most important one. It's this one. The other two, the number 2 and number 3, are the male and the female. It's only apparently difference. The fourth is Jupiter, and Jupiter was the king of the gods. So it's the most important archetypes in this sense. So the first four could be used very well to create a reconnection, especially for people do channeling, for example. Sometimes it's very important, to rebalance, because it's not easy for who works on channeling. It's not easy to interact with people and stay at the same time balanced with ourselves. The connection is very important. So, or simply when you use archetypes, tarot, or astrology too, when you met a person, you create a connection and you go out of yourself. So to go back to yourself, recreate the connection, few drops. This water is used only for external use because it works on the meridian, especially on crystal, under the ear and the ankle. And it's possible in a few minutes to recreate a balancing, a reconnection, especially with these four. But every one of these bottles has inside the information of reconnection. The last 22 works more on the body. Physical problem, psychological problem connected with the body, because we know today that a lot of pathologies came from that psychological situation or trauma or a karmic situation, because there are some movement, planetary movement in our transit that sometimes is a sort of came back to the past. So this 22 works very, very good on this. The first 10 are more connected with the Sephiroths. The Sephiroths in the Tree of Life are essential, the main source. So you can reconnect with You asked me about human design. Human design actually comes from the tree of life.
Right.
I know human design.
The diagram looks the same.
It's a diagram. It's quite the same.
Right.
Works on these. The difference, if you want, are different. With the human design, in my knowledge, I'm not expert of human design, but in human design, you have a sort of diagnostic system, the group, you know. After the diagnostic system, you have to find a solution. I work on solution, actually not on the diagnostic, because sometimes if you match together these things, it's very interesting. But when you use the tree of life is a map, like human design. Okay, if you see in this map something doesn't work properly, you can use the solution. There are a lot of system works on map, like human design. But in my experience, I saw that few system works on the solution.
Right.
You know, that this is the difference in this system.
That's
We have a map.
interesting.
At the same time, you have the solution, or solution, the way to
Right.
how to move.
Right.
Because the most important thing that I didn't say, is that this is not a miracle. Okay, I'm very clear in this. This is an activator of your miracle, because the miracle, we are the miracle. So you have your power to healing your process.
Right.
But sometimes it's blocked. It's a sort of, it's difficult to. I always say, you can represent a part of universe, but actually we are all. So I can, I'm Sagittarius, so of course I have some part of, that I express of this zodiacal sign, but in my natal chart there is all. So I can, express in different ways who am I. And sometimes it's so restrictable, it's so restrictive to think about ourselves in a way, because you close in a box. Okay, this is a box, but I open a box, so inside you can find different elements. So that's the difference actually. You ask about which is the difference with our soma substance, and why there are the numbers. I start from the second question. The numbers are, first of all, for an easy way, because you can easily recognize when you get a bottle. But apart of this, there is a gematria in Jewish tradition, in Kabbalah, especially in Kabbalah. It's a numerical system, quite complicated numerical system, to tell us how works this system. So when I put a number, it's connected only on a tree of life. But for sure, if you get 31, for example, or 30, for example, you get a number, and this number works in your system. So numbers are very important too. The difference with our soma, it's easy, because our soma works I used our soma for a long time, and I studied, and actually in the I don't know if there are some our soma practitioner, or there is at the point there is the tree of life. They study tree of life. Our soma is based on tree of life. But at the same time, it's different because these are for external use. You have to put on your body, because works on the meridian of the body. And in this, there is a frequency, is strictly connected with the water, the difference inside, the element inside. In this system, there are no flowers, no essential oil. There is water and three different essence comes from the tree, not from the flowers. Because when you use the flowers, you have an information, and it's difficult to change that information. You kept an information like Bach flowers. You kept an information and works on this. When you use water and you inform water, if there is a flower, it's a mess, because I've tried, because there is already an information. Water and the essence of the tree is different, because it's like incense. When the essence from the tree is the incense you use at home, to purify your ambient, works when you burn. If it's not burned, it's stable. it's not stable, sorry, that's another thing. It's flat. So I can put inside information. And they release when you get the body. So it's different, the system. And in our Soma there are a lot of bottles, I don't know how many now, maybe 170. This system is 32, that's it. Because in 32 you have all. Thank you.